Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining in the session. So let me just switch across and tell you a little bit about me. So my name is Liju, so I'm Rajeev. I was born in Bahrain. I grew up and spent most of my schooling there. I'm originally Indian. My parents are from India. I moved back to India to do my college. I spent around 11 years in Bangalore doing college. I did my bachelor's in psychology and my master's in counseling psychology, with a focus on human resource development. My first job out of college back in 2004, I don't know if you remember, that was when the tsunami had hit Southeast India. And my first job was head of a project for UNICEF and Caritas, primarily providing psychological assistance to the victims and the families of the victims. So that was my first job right out of college, basically where I was training and coaching a team of counselors in Southeast Asia, primarily focused on South India. And that was my first job out of college. And that's when I really kind of learned about coaching and training and all of that. That project kind of wound up in like 2.5 years or so. And then I got into corporate training. And ever since, I've been a corporate trainer, spending a lot of time in the classroom, and I love helping people develop. And that's basically what I do, well, primarily as my career. I moved back to Bahrain in 2008, and then I moved to Qatar around 6 years ago. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been. I've spent most of my life in Bahrain, Qatar, and India. That's a little bit about where I've been. My qualification is primarily in psychology. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. My passion and my career has been in learning and development. In the last 15 years, I've spent in multiple companies across India, Bahrain, and Qatar. And my passion in my free time is I love to travel. And that's one of the biggest challenges of COVID today, that I don't get to travel anymore like I used to. But of course, now in the past year, I've spent more time discovering Qatar and different parts of Qatar, especially outside of the city of Doha. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, just so that, I wanted to kind of, introduce myself. But I'd also like to get to know you guys. I see that we've got almost 10 participants here. So I was thinking we're going to do this a little differently. Now, what we want to do with this session is not really make it like a training or like me, the expert, coming in and giving you, hey, do these 10 things and, everything will be all right. What I wanted to do was really kind of use this as an opportunity to kind of discuss and get to know each other, network a little bit, and then share ideas together. So what I'm going to do in this session is really kind of use a tool called WooClap to allow us to do that. Okay. So before I get into the objectives, what I want to do is I want to make sure that you guys have access to a device, a mobile device, or another additional device from which you're attending this webinar, so that you can participate in the interactive questions. Okay, so let me jump straight into that. Yeah, there you go. So what I want you to do is, if you've got another device, I want you to go to the browser, type in www.wooclap.com/LIJU, and that'll allow you to participate and, in polls and interactive questions that you can kind of share. So, and you can follow along on the questions that we're going to be sharing on the screen. So I think you can see this on your screen right now, wooclap.com/Liju, LIJU. And that should allow you to participate. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to just log in, get on your device, log in, and get to this page where you can participate.
Can we confirm if everyone is able to log in?
Yeah, I've seen that 3 people have already logged in.
Oh, really? Okay.
4 have logged in now. So it'll take a couple of minutes for them to get their device and open the browser, get there. If you're having difficulty, just feel free to share, chat, talk to me, tell me what the problem is, and I will try to fix it. We'll give you another 60 seconds to get you all in. Oh, good. We've got 6 people already there. Very nice. 7. So wooclap.com is basically an interactive tool that allows me to kind of, post some questions on the PowerPoint, and then you can respond back, and then you can also see your responses live. Good. So we've got all 9 people on there. I guess the 10th participant's probably me. So let me start by getting to know you guys a little bit. Okay. So First, I'd like to know what you guys do for a job, what department you're in. So yeah, if you're in L&D or HR or core operations or any of the other areas, I see some of you are in L&D, or if you're in another area, just let me know what your job function is. Okay, so we've got one HR, we've got one L&D, we've got, okay, business support, we've got other. Good, if we've got a lot of others, we'll get down specifically to what those job titles are as well. Good, so we've got 5 of you who've already given us your responses. So how this works is you basically select an option and hit submit, and that's how that works, yeah? If you've not hit submit, just go ahead and hit submit, and then we can see. Good, so looks like a lot of you in business support functions. Okay, let's get down to specifics, yeah? Okay, so the next question. So let's share our designation. What do you do for a job? What do you do in your role in the business? Go ahead and type out your job designation and share that with me. Very nice. So we have a HR officer here. Welcome. We've got an L&D manager. Great. Okay, let me view this as a grid so it's easy. So we've got director of performance management. Welcome. We've got a freelancer. We've got a business coach and consultant. We've got a person who's doing teaching and an administrative job. Very good. We've got a HR officer and an L&D manager. Very nice. Good. So that's 6 roles. We've got a couple of more people. If there are anybody joining late, if you'd like to participate in this poll, what you want to do is go to wooclap.com/Liju. Can you see that on the top of your screen? wooclap.com/Liju, Liju, and that will allow you to respond to our polls and our interactive questions. Maybe Malavan, you can put a link on the chat so anyone who's joining late can go ahead and contribute as well. We've got a senior manager of systems. We've got another manager here. Great. Fantastic. Good. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. For those of you who've come in late, guys, we're just doing this interactive introduction. So we're trying to get to know each other. Also, it's a great opportunity for us to kind of, meet online and network with people from across the globe. Thank you so much for joining us from outside Qatar. Thank you, guys. So if you want to participate, go ahead and participate on wooclap.com/Liju, Liju, and you should be able to see these questions on your screen and respond as well. Good. Thank you so much for sharing your designations and telling us who you are. Let's try and understand which industries you guys come from. Yeah. So tell us what industry you're in, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's aviation, whether it's retail, hospitality, tourism, logistics, telecom. Great. We've got education, training, telecom. Let's look at that as a word cloud. Okay, we've got quite a few people in education and training. Nice. We've got manufacturing. Good. This is a quick way to kind of, really get an understanding of who's in the room. Typically, if we were to do this in the classroom, I'd have you guys, go around the room and introduce yourself. I feel like this is another easier way to do it using technology. Maybe you might find a way to use this within your teams as well. We've got O&M. I don't know what O&M stands for. Can somebody help me understand what O&M is? Good. So we've got banking, operations, and maintenance. Very nice. Okay. We've got people from business. Good. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Fantastic. Good. So thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Let's go to our next. Okay. Before we get into the next question, what I want to do is quickly go over our objectives for today and make sure that we kind of focus on this, right? So today's session is basically to understand how we can rebuild our teams given this current situation. Now, typically, we talk about team building a lot, right? And easy to talk about, the different stages of our team development and defining what a team is and working together as an objective, working towards an objective. But then the challenge here is that we are now in this unique situation that has, probably never been seen before in our lifetime, and we are having to deal with different challenges, especially with COVID-19, and how do we kind of, address that issue with regard to our teams. So what we want to do is today, as a group, we're going to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the world, the business, the team, and the individual. We're going to talk about, business crisis management, the actions that have been taken, and if there's been any revised business goals. We're going to talk about the challenges of our current teams and individuals. We're going to discuss the proven methods for rebuilding and re-engaging teams. And we're going to talk about maybe some practical tools for improving morale and re-energizing our teams back in the workplace. So that's basically what we plan to discuss today. And what I want to do is I want to do it in the form of us discussing, right? Using this tool to understand what's the impact of COVID on our businesses and our teams. Okay, so feel free to share. For those of you who've come in late, again, we're doing these interactions on WooClap. So if you want to participate, you go to wooclap.com/LIJU and you can participate. So our first question to really kind of see what's going on is, how significantly has COVID-19 affected your business operations, right? Now, depending on which industry you're from, you might have a significant negative impact. You might have a significant positive impact. Like, for example, Amazon's been growing because they've been selling a lot more. Technology companies have been growing. Delivery companies like Talabat have been growing. So tell us if your company has been affected by COVID-19 or your specific business operation that you're involved in. Has that had a negative impact, positive impact, no impact? Good, we've got 5 responses out of 11. So we've got one person has got a significant positive impact. I'm assuming you're in technology or telecom, probably. Yeah, telecom's been doing really well. Nice, we've got 6 out of 11 responses. Go ahead and tell us, has it been impacting your business? So a majority of the people are having negative impact. Some of them are having significant negative impact, while some of the others are having some negative impact. Very good. Anybody else want to share? We've got 7 out of 11 responses. Go ahead and hit submit, and then you will see the results change on the screen. Good. So this is really kind of setting the context for us that a majority of us in this virtual room have been affected by COVID-19. It has really kind of changed the way we do business, changed our work life. And let's see how that is. Let's talk about team members being made redundant or restructured in the past year. Now, since COVID, we might have had maybe people let go, maybe some people taking a salary cut, some people being given a different role within the organization. Go ahead and share with us if you've had any team members been made redundant or restructured in the past year. You might have fewer team members or maybe more team members now. Tell us if you've had a lot of changes within that.
What is it? फोन डालेगा तो ना थोड़ा आराम से डालो, गिर में ज्यादा साउंड। Okay, open.
Okay, we've got 5 out of 11 responses. Go ahead and tell us if you've got no, let's say, redundancies or no restructuring within your department. That's also okay. So you can go ahead and tell us that. Just to remind you again, if you want to access the question and contribute, you go to wooclap.com/Liju, Liju, and you can respond. Yeah. Good. So we've definitely got some changes. So out of this, I've got 14% of the audience says that there's been no changes, but I'm assuming for the rest of you, there has been changes, maybe some small changes, some big changes. Interesting. And I'm assuming this is the reason why we are attending this session in the first place, to understand what we can do, especially since there's been a change in our teams. Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing. Good. Let's go to the next question. Now, this is a little bit more close to home in the sense that how does your team feel about their job security, especially given the situation, given all these challenges? How's your team feeling about their job security? Are they feeling secure? Are they feeling somewhat secure? Are they feeling not secure? Tell me how that is.
Liju, sorry to interrupt. Can I request the participants to mute your mic and unmute only when you are speaking, please? Thank you.
Oh, that's interesting. So we've got a few people who say that their team's jobs, at least the team feel that their jobs are secure. Some of them feel somewhat confident that it's secure. And some of them feel that it's not secure. That's almost half of you in the room feel like their team's job security is not sure. And that might even apply to us in our own roles, that we might be feeling like our job's not secure. And that's important because it's really going to kind of affect our team dynamic, right? And we need to be able to address that. Very good. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Here's another question, the next question that we're going to look at. So the fact that our teams have changed, the fact that our team's job security is kind of, fluid, how has your team dynamic changed over the past year? What kind of changes have you noticed within your team? What is it? How is it different from January 2020 or December 2019 versus today or over the last couple of months? What kind of changes do you see within your team that is a challenge that we need to deal with? Go ahead and type out your answers and let's look at it on the screen. Like, it might be in terms of communication, it might be in terms of clarity, it might be in terms of, confidence, it might be in terms of interaction and support. There are different kinds of team dynamics that may have changed within your teams. Go ahead and type out what those changes are. Okay, let me put it into grid view. Pivoting to virtual meetings and networking, yes, that's definitely a big change. Or the whole remote working thing, yes. Different communication is on Zoom, yes. They feel a lot more disconnected, makes sense. Working remotely. So I guess given that context of working remotely and working on Zoom, what are some of the challenges that brings to, as opposed to being face-to-face, as opposed to being able to chat, at the desk or at the water cooler or in a room one-to-one? So empowerment, I guess that's changed. Less interactions, less communications face-to-face. Leadership has changed, okay. Anything else? I'm assuming a lot of these changes are not positive. They're probably, negative. Okay, close scrutiny from the family. Okay, your family looking at it and seeing what you're doing. Processes have changed. Looking at a screen for hours, whether that's, for entertainment or whether that's for work or whether that's for learning, we're always looking at the screen, right? Even now, it's definitely a challenge. Less human encounter, more working hours. Oh yeah, totally makes sense. Earlier you had 9-to-5 job, you clock in, clock out, but now because you're online, people expect you to be available all the time. Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. So this new way of working within teams, with this whole virtual, so what are the real challenges that we face as leaders with regard to building our team, managing our team, getting our teams to perform? What exactly does working remotely or working online cause in terms of challenges? Where are the breakdowns of these team dynamics? What are the challenges that this has brought to our day-to-day working? Go ahead and note that down. Productivity is a challenge. Okay. Alignment. I'm assuming alignment to goals, alignment with each other. Okay. The uncertainty. Okay. The proper communication is not adequate. Okay. Security with this whole online thing, the security becomes an issue. Accountability. Security also could be with regard to job security. Accountability, less support, need instant human support. So there isn't enough support when you're working online. People expecting availability at all times, not confident with new skills, being very distracted. Oh yeah, tell me about it. Especially with the screen and mobile devices around. There's constantly notifications that's going to pop up and distract you. Interesting. Being overworked. Oh yes. So not going to the fridge all the time. Oh, tell me about it. I've put on weight sitting at home and working from home. Health is definitely a bigger concern because you're probably not putting as many steps in. Very good. Good. Some really good practical insights coming in from our participants. Very good. So what I really want to do is I want to use technology to kind of get everybody to have a voice, but also because this is a discussion, I'd like you to, feel free to unmute yourself and share some challenges that you're facing, because what we're going to do is use this as a discussion to kind of see what we can do about it, right? So some of you have shared some really, important points, but I'm sure all of these points, if you were to unpack them, there'll be a lot more insight. So if any of you'd like to share on any of the thoughts that you've shared yourself or from one of the other points, if you feel like, yeah, that resonates with you, go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to share. What are some of the challenges of this new way of working from home, working during COVID? And how does that affect your teams? And how does that affect you as a team leader? Go ahead and share. I'm going to give you guys like the next 5 minutes for us to discuss. So
may I talk?
Go ahead.
This is Rana. For me, from my experience, we haven't seen any effect, let's say negative effect regarding the productivity. Everyone was trying to be hardworking and doing their best, but the nature of our work requires lots of meetings. Now everyone is engaged in Zoom calls, so whenever you want, just sometimes you just consume, walking in the corridor face to face, you can talk to your colleague or to your boss, complete the tasks, have his decision, discuss with him. Now, when I want to talk to any of my team members or my boss, I need to have an appointment because he's engaged in another Zoom call. And this is really bothered us because we have, as I mentioned, that we have back-to-back meetings and we are all engaged in meetings. And there are some small things that can be resolved in the office in few seconds. It needs maybe one day in order to to align with your colleague or your boss and then have a decision on that. So this is what make the situation is more difficult for us.
That is so true. I hear what you're saying, and I think a lot of us agree and are nodding as you're saying that some small thing that could be easily resolved by just popping into somebody's office and just having a quick word or a chat with them, it could get resolved very quickly, but now requires scheduling and time, and it's not very efficient. It's not the way it used to be, and that's definitely a challenge that we're facing. And I think that can bring quite a bit of challenges within the team. Anybody else experiencing something like this? You agree with her, disagree with her, have something else that you'd like to share or add? Feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and share.
I have one more point. If you allow me, I can also mention another point.
Go
this
ahead.
is also regarding the internet and the stability of the net. Sometimes, and even in this webinar, my internet is unstable. Sometimes I'm hearing you, sometimes I'm not hearing you. And this applies also on my meetings at work, because the instability of the internet is also an obstacle for us to hear each other's. So this is also another something that bothers me during my work.
That is so true. I mean, earlier we only had to worry about us understanding each other in terms of language or accents or in terms of, culturalisms. But now there's another barrier with this whole connectivity thing. And, you have to then make out the broken section of that whole audio piece. You'll have to kind of fill it in yourself and assume what they were saying because you don't want to maybe interrupt them. I know it can be such a challenge. I'm sure everyone's agreeing with you on that. But anybody else would like to share any other challenges of this new way of team working and how that's affecting your teams?
Yeah, I would. I have my other co-founder of our business is she's in another part of the United States. So how we handle that with Rana, how the quick interaction is just simply through text messaging. I remember that back in the day we had that messaging, and so we don't have to worry about what each other's doing. I know it's kind of weird, you're on camera and you can see when you're looking at your phone, but at least it takes care of those simple issues. The other thing about that interaction with people, that eye contact, and that just like you said, and even sometimes when you have different accents, and it's really so much easier to be person to person, face to face, to understand some of that, because we have clients all over the world, and so sometimes it gets a little frustrating, and without being able to be right there in the same room with somebody, or just that eye contact.
That's so true. Yeah, I guess we miss that whole piece of trust and relationships that's built with just being in proximity with each other. And I guess that's definitely a challenge. But really like what you said about text messages and the way to use that as an alternative to dropping in and saying hi. Yeah, I guess we are being innovative. We are trying to find solutions. Definitely that's something that could work, but it's still not 100% there like it was if you were in person, and that can really kind of take a toll eventually with time. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Any other thoughts, any other inputs that you'd like to share on the challenges that you're facing and how that affects your team and affects you as a leader? We've got a lot of experience in this room. I know a lot of you are sitting there and like, yeah, I know exactly what it is. So go ahead and share. I mean, we here to learn from each other. We can learn a lot more from each other than we can from just one person. So go ahead and share, yeah? I'm also happy to think of—
Hi, Mr. Liju.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. This is Ansu with you.
Oh, hi, Ansu. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. Yes, I'm not like I'm in a middle position, like a middle range position. But then, from my experience, I can share two aspects of it. For example, if it is for a lead, it could be the control over the team, or we can say like I am assigned, or my leader has assigned me a task, but like the control over me, that is my leader will think how long I will take to complete, or am I really doing my task. So that is, if I'm at work, if I'm working from my office, they don't have to worry about it because they know that I'm working, I'm in front of them. But while I'm working remotely, they don't have that control. Definitely, there are a lot of tools which helps to plan our task or control, but still it takes a lot of time. As an employee, my time it takes. For example, if I'm like going on updating my task, like every hour I'm updating, or like I'm like reporting my manager that I'm doing this, I'm doing that, that is actually grabbing my time of what I have to really do. So these are the two challenges from an employee or from a team member's perspective, and also from a leader's perspective.
Thank you for sharing, Ansu. That makes sense because, if you're in a physical space and you're with your team, you're able to kind of see what they're doing and how long it's taking them. But like you said, if you're working online, it's definitely going to be a challenge. There are ways to get around it. There are tools, but then again, updating those tools sometimes is an additional step affecting productivity. Totally agree with what you said. Yeah, I mean, it's so good to hear, and I think this is the challenge that, companies find solutions, find softwares, give it to us to, hey, go ahead and do this because that's the new way of working. And we never have had a chance or a platform.
Yes, definitely. This is a big challenge that we faced when we worked from home.
Yeah, you're so right. You're absolutely right on that. And then when we face these challenges, we don't really have any way to overcome it, and we don't have anybody to talk to about it. And this is a great opportunity. We've got a set of professionals here that are able to share with each other and talk about it. And I don't think organizations want to hear, oh, that's not working, updating that productivity tools, what you've got to do, whether you like it or not. It's definitely a challenge. Thank you so much for sharing about that. Any other thoughts that you'd like to share, or we'll move on if you guys, but yeah, I see that you're already also putting in your comments on the poll. So thank you so much for sharing. Good. So let's discuss how we can deal with this new normal. Now, some of us have already given some tips around, probably using text messages and using technology and productivity tools. So tell us, what are some of the new skills? I'm sure there's so many more ways out there that we've been kind of using, skills that we've been using as ourselves and as team members to adapt to this change, right? Some of you are talking about productivity softwares. So if there's been something new that you've been trying that's been working, go ahead and type it out here in our poll, and let's see if we can learn from each other. What are some of the new skills that you and your team members have learned or needed to learn to adapt to this change? Oh yeah, you've learned to manage stress. There's been a lot of stress, both from work and from the situation around us. Learn to focus. Oh yeah, very good. Online learning skills. Yeah, no more classroom training, so we've got to learn how to learn online. Very good. Phone communication skills. Yes, it's not the same as chatting with a friend, chatting for work. Very good. And just using mobile apps and productivity apps and chat and Zoom calls and how to do everything online, everything. Absolutely, very good. Staying engaged with virtual meetings and networking, managing deadlines. Yes, a new skill, especially given that we're not working face to face. Any other skills that you had to learn to adapt and change, or that you need to learn to adapt and change? The courage to explore new apps. Absolutely. And it's not always easy, learning a new tool from scratch. It's definitely going to take some time, and not all of us are in that, the young age, the native technology generation where, it's easy for us to learn this new stuff. Deleting browser history. That's interesting. Yeah, especially since especially for work computers, if your businesses manage your browser history. Yeah. Interesting. How to cope with task deliveries by working remotely. Mm-hmm. Any other skills that you've been using over the last couple of months and years to deal with this new change? Last couple of months, really, with COVID. Empathy, I like that. I don't know who shared empathy, but I would like to unpack that a little bit. Would the person who shared about empathy like to share a little bit? I really appreciate that. Tell us why empathy.
Yeah, I'm the culprit, Liju.
What do you think? Why empathy?
See, we got to be very understanding about what we have absolute no idea what's happening in someone's household.
Mm-hmm.
So before, we used to keep our personal problems away and then work at the office. Now it's like two monsters together. So we need to be, a bit conscious that the person we are talking to would be undergoing a lot of pressure on a personal front, which he or she may not have shared with us. I think we have to be a little, careful about when we spill out words. Just because you're a boss, you just can't, just shout at the individual that he or she is not meeting the deadlines. I think we have to be a little mindful, be sensitive.
That is so true. Especially now, since those boundaries between work and life in general have kind of been taken away. Just being empathetic to people's situations, what's going on in their lives, especially with what's happening with COVID. The people have been affected, people's lives have been changed up, turned upside down. Just being empathetic and understanding what's going on with your team is really important at this point. Thank you so much for sharing that, especially when you're working from home. I think this is a very useful thing for us as team leaders to be aware of, just being empathetic. Building confident awareness. Okay. Has anyone used Monday.com or similar tools? Yes, many of us have been using tools like Asana, Monday.com. There's some great productivity tools. That's a good question. This might be up for discussion. Go ahead and, if you're using Monday.com or any kind of tools for tracking team progress on each task, go ahead and type it out in your chat box, what tool you're using. So that might help somebody here. So I personally have used Asana and Monday.com in the past, and they're both great tools. It's basically a modern project management tool that allows you to keep track of your team and what, how to assign tasks to different people and then follow up on those tasks with allowances for integration with your Outlook and Microsoft Teams and all of that stuff. So yeah, go ahead and share with us what tools you're using in your chat box. Let's see.
Are you getting paid for Monday.com?
Me or
you?
The person who shared? Someone asked a question on the group saying, has anyone used Monday.com? So it might be nice to know that, because Monday.com is not the only tool out there. There's a lot more, and it can be quite useful. Telegram for official tasks. Yeah, that's good. Honeybook and Trello. Well, that's good. Okay. So yeah, this is stuff that we can go back and look at if you're looking for specific tools that we could use. No, they're not getting paid for Monday.com. But yeah, if you're thinking of whether to try or not, go ahead and sign up for the trials of these different softwares. I like Asana. I like Monday.com. There's also another one called ClickUp that I used to use. They're all quite good, but you'll need to find the right software for you if you're looking for it for a work situation. Yeah, you need to find also, these are all cloud-based softwares that have a monthly subscription, so you need to find one that works for you. Good. So yeah, these are some of the new skills that we need to learn as team members, not just the soft skills, but sometimes also technical, softwares and tools that we need to probably use to deal with this change, right? Good. Let's move on to our last question before I share some slides. So there are many team dynamics that have changed over the past year. Some team dynamics might have improved, some might have deteriorated. So I want you to look at this list. So we've got a list of 15 different team dynamics. And I want you to think of which of these team dynamics have improved and which of them have deteriorated. Okay, so at the top of the list, put the team dynamics that have improved, and the team dynamics that have deteriorated, go ahead and put it on the bottom of your list. So you can go ahead and select each team dynamic and move it up or down and sort them, and then hit submit once you feel like, okay, this is a reasonable sorting of the team dynamics from improved to deteriorated, right? Now, if most of them have deteriorated, that's all right, then we can probably talk about it. But I'm assuming that some of them have improved because you're using certain tools or softwares or whatever, and some of them have deteriorated. So the team dynamics that have improved over the last year, go ahead and put that on top. The ones that have deteriorated, go ahead and put that in the bottom. And you can move them along and then hit submit. So we've got commitment, consensus decision-making, interdependence, timeliness, trust, social bonding and belongingness, performance, openness, individual communications, cooperation and supportiveness, conflict management, team communications, having the right people, shared values, clarity and structure. It might take you a minute to go through all of these points, but think about each of these points for you and your team, and think about, has this gotten better over the last year, or has this gotten worse over the last year? And then just sort it from best to worst, and then we'll see how that looks. And there's no right or wrong answer here. This is totally, based on your team and your experience with your team. So no one's judging you. And we don't know who answered to what also, so it's okay. Good, I've got 3 submissions so far. I know this will take a little bit of time. Also, what I'm hoping this question will do is really allow us to think about all of the different elements of our team and our team dynamic that we may have missed. If we might have focused on some of these elements and we might have worked on them while we might have missed others. So this will also give us some kind of direction and clarity as team leaders on what we need to work on over the next couple of weeks and months to improve our team dynamic. So again, on the top, we have the team dynamics that have improved over the past year. And at the bottom, we have team dynamics that have deteriorated over the past year, yeah? So go ahead and sort them out. Once you've finished the sorting, then you can go ahead and hit submit, and that should allow you to have the results displayed on the screen. So it looks like social bonding and belongingness seems to go down. Clarity and structure seems to go down. Interesting. Good. I mean, there is no right or wrong answer here. This is, again, purely dependent on each person's situation. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for thinking about it. Really, a lot of these questions are really to help you to kind of look back at your team and think about what it is that we need to do as a team leader to kind of get the maximum from our team and also give the best to our team. Very good. So also what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you some best practices and some of the inputs from, what do you call it? The point of view of what we can do as good leaders and how we can be the best for our teams. Let me go ahead and clear this. Okay, so what do good leaders do? What are some of the things that we know will work in terms of as a leadership skill? Now, I'm really passionate about great leadership, and I think that's the key for us to really engage our teams and re-engage our teams. Sorry, I'm just trying to clear all the annotations. For some reason, it just seems to keep popping up. Good. So the first thing that we need to understand with regard to being a great leader is that it starts with us and it ends with us. And we're really what our team members are really looking to for guidance during this tough time, right? It starts with us. It starts with us taking the first step to do something about it. In this situation where COVID's bringing in so many challenges, good leaders realize that it's on them. It's what do we do now? And it starts with us. And also, just because it starts with us, it doesn't mean that we have all the answers, right? And as leaders, as good team leaders, what we need to do is we need to acknowledge uncertainty, right? We don't try to, act like we have all the answers, and we don't, right? A lot of times we don't have all the answers. And acknowledging uncertainty allows the team to trust what we're saying and also know that we're on this journey with them to find the right solution, and the fact that we might not have all the answers right now. And acknowledging certainty is important as a leader to really kind of guide our team through the situation. The next thing is, as a team leader, what we need to do is think for ourselves, what is it that we can control? Now, a lot of things that's been going on over the past year is out of our control, and we cannot do anything about it. And unfortunately, a lot of times we're stuck talking about and acting on and discussing and focusing all our energies on what we can't do. And what we should be doing is focusing on what we can control. What is it that we do have control over? And that's really the way we get started with our teams. Focus on what we can actually control, what we can actually do, right? So It starts with you. We acknowledge uncertainty as leaders. We focus on what we can control. We make calculated decisions. Now, especially during this tough time when there's been a lot of lack of clarity, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of team members face is when their leaders are not willing to make decisions, when they're being indecisive. And that's definitely a big challenge, right? And for us as team leaders, one of the things we have to do is we have to make decisions which are calculated decisions given all of the information that we have at that point of time. Now, it is possible that we might not make the right decision. We might have to go back and change. We might have to do things differently later. But at any point in time, if we are seen by our team members to be indecisive and that we're just sitting and waiting and hoping that things will resolve themselves without taking a decision and deciding what to do next, that's worse for team dynamics and that's worse for team morale. So it is important for us as leaders to make calculated decisions with the information that we have, right? And that's very important, and not to be seen as being indecisive. Another good leadership skill that I've seen, especially with many good leaders over the past year, is communicating a lot. Communicating now like never before, giving out as much information as possible. And what you would see with poor leaders or dysfunctional teams is that in their teams there isn't any communication. There isn't any clarity. They don't know what's going on. People are not on the same page. So as a team leader, what we really need to do is communicate now like never before. We use all different modes of technology or all different mediums that we have available to us to communicate with our teams, to communicate with each other. Obviously, you're going to miss that face-to-face. You're going to miss that direct connection. So we use everything to kind of make up for what we are missing. And we communicate like never before. Because if we did the same way like we did before, like, just occasionally texting or occasionally sending an email, that would not work. We have to find new ways to communicate and constantly be in touch. That's very important. Creating new expectations. The fact that our work life, our business life is not the same like it was before. Creating those new expectations and clarifying it and clearly mentioning to your team and clearly explaining to your team what these new expectations are, that's important. And there might be changes in these, officially from the business that, hey, these are our revised targets, these are our revised priorities. That's important for us to share as well. And emphasizing the vision and mission. Why are we here in the first place as an organization, as a team, as a department? What is our primary focus? What's our direction? Emphasizing on our mission and our vision and our direction is really the primary job of us as leaders. And if we are good leaders, we are able to help the team focus back on the vision and mission of our organization and of our team. And these are 7 things that we can look at ourselves and evaluate and introspect. And are we doing all of these? Now, some of us have been doing great at these. Some of us have been doing great at some of these and not so much in others. But this will kind of really give us a checklist to check ourselves against. I mean, it's easy for me to preach, but I definitely fall short on some of these areas myself, and I'm constantly trying to ask myself, hey, am I doing this well? Am I doing this well? And when I fall short, I try to do my best to fix it and move on. So the first thing that I feel is for us to kind of really understand the leadership aspect. What is our role as a leader to really, now more than ever, your team needs a leader, and your team needs to be seeing you demonstrate those leadership skills. And those are those 7 points that we talked about, right? And how do you rebuild your team morale? Now, think about it. Our teams are not as motivated as they used to be before, given all of the situations. There's so many things going on around them. It's not the most convenient, comfortable situation to be in, right? And the first thing is what we talked about, leading your team to greatness. You as a leader stepping up and playing your role as a leader. Here we're going to talk about 10 points. The first one is, of course, being that leader and leading your team to greatness, and also sometimes defining what does greatness look like today. What does that mean? We talked about clear expectations, the new expectations, our vision and our mission. So playing the role of that leader. The second bit is also about restoring your team's belief in the organization. Now, a lot of times, especially with the organizations, you might be doing really well at handling this whole pandemic, but also in some cases you might be doing terrible at handling the pandemic. Maybe your organization has had to let a lot of people go, and that's kind of, shaken your employees' belief in the organization and whether the organization is going to take care of you. And especially, we talked about this earlier in the question around, job security. It is important as a leader, your role is also to restore your team's belief in the organization. And that comes across from your words, from your actions, from your chats, because your team is always looking to you to see how you're reacting to, let's say, instructions or input from the organization. And it's very important for us to really kind of cascade down those directions and restore the belief in the organization. Because yes, sometimes the organization, to survive, to be able to manage, to be able to ensure that they're not taking a big hit at the end of the year financially, have to make some changes to deal with the situation. But yeah, it can definitely affect people, and we need to kind of really understand that it's our role to really help people understand what the organization's doing, and that's the only way you can rebuild your team's morale. The third thing is acknowledge their hard work. I mean, I think that goes without saying. It is important for us to really acknowledge the hard work that our team's putting in. And all of you know what are the challenges of working from home, all of those extra hours, all of those, working from home late, beyond your 9 to 5 timings. Also the amount of work, all of the new softwares and systems that you've got to deal with. It's not as easy as it used to be before. It just helps for, team members to see that their leaders are actually acknowledging all of the hard work and all of the challenges that they're facing to get this work done in on time. That goes a long way. Learn their emotions.
Rajeev, may I interrupt?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Rajeev, with this pandemic, sometimes the leader has all the skills that he's capable, he's inspirational, he's motivating, he's acknowledging their hard work. But let's say the business itself is not doing well, or they are doing terrible, and the morale of the whole team is down, and there is no what is the way that this guy can put their morale back to normal, since they are feeling the job insecurity? There might be a redundancy, there might be some layoff. So what shall that leader do in order to maintain?
I hear your question. I think this is exactly why
during this
I hear your question, and I think that's the point. The fact that everything's against us, everything is, destroying team morale. And for us as a team now, if you look across any organization that's taken a big hit in terms of restructuring, in terms of redundancies, in terms of lower margins, on the brink of, in some of our case, maybe on the brink of bankruptcy, you will still see that as you look around you, you look at different teams, you look at the productivity of different teams, you look at, you just pop into, let's say, a virtual team meeting of any of these teams, you'll see different teams are at different levels in terms of morale. Some teams are at, terrible morale, just, extremely stressed out, extremely disappointed, while some other teams are somewhere in the middle. And surprisingly, you'll also find some teams that are, on high morale and actually performing well. And when you look at what it is that is the difference between these different teams, given everything else is the same, it really goes back to the leadership skills and these skills that we're talking about. And that's really what we want to acknowledge and address here, to see what is it that different leaders are doing with their teams to, rebuild team morale given all of this. Now, it is possible that, in 6 months' time, COVID will go away and, vaccines will work and everything would be great. And these teams would be, back to their full capacity, back to being in person working. And this team would already have an advantage because they've been doing so well when they were, working with limited resources, working from home. It's also possible that this could just get worse and, this could be the new norm, and this is going to be the way it's going to be working for the next 5-10 years, God forbid. But given all of that, given all that we know or don't know about the situation, what is it that we as leaders can do differently? And remember, the first thing we said, it starts with us. It starts with me. What can I do? And ask if I'm doing all of these. Now, yes, if you're doing all of these and your team is still, having a terrible morale and the business is going to go bankrupt, really at that situation, there isn't much you can do. But the question is, are we doing all of these? And that's really what we want to do, right?
Yeah, this is exactly, Rajeev, what I don't know whether you heard me in my question or no, but this is exactly what I was trying to say. That sometimes this pandemic is like above or beyond the capabilities of that leader.
I agree.
Because
And
they know, even if he's demotivating them, they know for a fact that there will be a redundancy and layoff. So what is the role of the leader with this? Because it's pandemic and something that is out of his hands. So what shall he do? I don't know what can he do to like rebuild the morale again and leverage the morale.
So my solution to you is, these are the 10 things I feel that as a team leader that you can do from your side. This is what we can control. Remember, what we want to do is we want to focus on things that we can control, and there are certain things that we can't control, and that's something that's God's got to give us the grace to be able to leave things that we can't control and control what we can, right? And that's really what we're trying to do here. So the fourth thing, and I think one of the most important things, especially with regard to your point, is really learning the emotions of your team. And this pandemic is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than this webinar. It's bigger than any consultant giving you 10 different points to make your team amazing. It's much bigger than that. It really goes down to you as an individual, you as a team leader. Are you really listening to the emotions of your team? And this goes beyond our job description in some ways. Maybe our responsibility is not to really pay attention to how each member on my team is doing. But today, as humanity, our role is really to watch out for the people that we're responsible for, right? And learn their emotions and understand what they're going through. And sometimes one kind word can go a long way. So learning their emotions is definitely something that we need to do.
Yeah.
Just a minute, I just need to take a break for a minute.
Don't worry, guys. He's going to be back. Don't worry.
Sorry, I was just trying to get that vacuum noise out from
I thought you disappeared.
Sorry. Okay, good. So where were we? We were at learn the emotions. So yeah, this is another thing that we can do to help address team morale, learn their emotions. Now, it's possible that we might have, in the last couple of months, with all of the stuff that we've been going through ourselves, not been able to focus on this, but there is a lot that we can do to just, maybe have an unofficial, non-work related chat just to see how people are doing. And now, especially with COVID, a lot of, family members or friends might be going through a health crisis, especially with COVID. And a lot of times we as team leaders miss out on what's going on in our team members' lives. And I think if we miss out, I think that's the biggest injustice that we're doing as human beings. And it's not just about work. It's just, it's us about being a community that is going to support each other. That's important. Incorporating more flexibility, that's another important thing. Incorporating flexibility into our work lives that allows our team members to, deal with work, given all of their challenges, given their home situations, whether that's with regard to time, whether that's with regard to when they work, whether they prefer mornings, afternoons, evenings, with regard to flexibility on how they work and how they present. What would work within your teams, within your, specific operational areas. Incorporating flexibility is something that you might have control over as a team leader, and do encourage that. Then embracing honest communication. A lot of times our communication is very peripheral, very superficial. It doesn't go deep, it isn't honest, it isn't really addressing real problems. And sometimes just being honest and vulnerable is going to go a long way with your teams, right? Honest communication over just lots of superficial communication, I guess. So being honest with your team members is really going to help, especially in like we talked about earlier, about acknowledging that things are uncertain, right? We have this whole leadership skill around VUCA, and how the business today is volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous. Just embracing honestly that sometimes we don't have the right answers, and we're going to try and figure it out together. That goes a long way for team morale. I know we're running out of time, so I want to run through these other 4 points as well. Reestablishing confidence in itself. As a team, sometimes the team's confidence in itself has gone down. Maybe because of the change in the numbers, maybe change in the headcount, maybe there's been new team members added, maybe some of them have a salary cut, maybe some of them have a different designation now, maybe somebody's been brought in from a different team to join your team. But it's important to reestablish confidence in that team. And as a team leader, the only person who can make that confidence building possible is you as a team leader. And it's important for you to take this opportunity to do that and do work with your team to reestablish its confidence in itself. Then that whole piece around listening to what your team is saying. A lot of times now with communication, we sometimes don't even have an opportunity to communicate, so we don't have an opportunity to listen. So it is important for you to create those opportunities for you to be able to hear what the team's really saying, not just about work, but also with regard to what's going on. Listening to sometimes what they say and also sometimes what they're not saying, reading between the lines, especially since the whole thing about online and the fact that you can't see body language and, the subtle facial expressions, sometimes we might miss out on what's really going on with these team members of ours. And it's really important for us to listen more closely and hear what they're saying and what they're not saying. And that's really important as a team leader. Involving teams in decision making. If there is some decisions that will actually affect their team, affect your team in terms of decisions that can be, let's say, consensus based, involve them. Involve your team in decision making wherever possible. It'll feel like they also have a say in the matter, and it really goes a long way to build your team morale. And another thing that I know will work a lot is allowing your team the opportunity to develop from within. This is also a great time now to learn and develop yourselves as individuals, and especially within your teams. Right now, a lot of the online classroom-based training is now being available online. There are a lot of free resources for you to learn skills and new technologies and new ways of working that you can share with your teams. We're all familiar with MOOCs and all of these online courses from top universities in the US and UK that are available online for free. Also, sometimes just supporting your teams to go and do some online certifications that allow them to be better at their job. Just encouraging your team to give them that time to develop themselves and grow their own skills goes a long way to develop your team morale. So these are like quick 10 things that we can evaluate ourselves on, but this is not exhaustive. This is not everything that we can do. And like you said, we could be doing all 10 things and our team could still be down in the dumps. And that's really one of the challenges of this situation. But then the question to ourselves and us being accountable to ourselves as leaders is, are we really doing all of this? Is there any of these areas that we've kind of fallen short in that we should be better at? I'm sure there are a couple of things that we could be doing that would probably help move or nudge our teams in the right direction towards rebuilding our team morale. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of these inputs around those 5 different inputs that I shared about us being great leaders and about how to rebuild your team morale. And I'm sure some of you have been doing this well and it's worked greatly for you. And some of you have been having a challenge with some of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the flow for you guys to unmute yourself and tell me, has some of this worked? What has worked for you? Have you had a challenge with some of these? They're not really working for you. Go ahead and share. I mean, I'm happy to listen and hear what you have to share. And if you have any other thoughts that you could add to these that would help the others in this room, go ahead and share that now.
Liju, I really like Rana's question. Why don't we throw the question to the audience? I'm sure everyone has a different take on this. If you could share, we would really appreciate. Probably we can help Rana out.
Absolutely. Anybody have thoughts? So Rana's question was around how do we deal with, even if you're being a great leader, even if you're doing all of these things to rebuild team morale and people are still down in the dumps, what can we do?
I think the biggest thing is listening. I love that point that you made, is that people just aren't heard anymore. You just can't go and talk to somebody next door in your office or whatever. So taking the time to really listen before you open a meeting, almost while you open the meeting, but have everybody else talk before you do. And I think that really gives you a sense of where everybody's at, and it just brings cohesiveness into the group.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Any other thoughts, any other inputs, any of these points that you'd like to highlight, or another point that you'd like to add? Feel free to share.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. What I feel is the rapport that the leader has with the team member. If my leader has a good relationship with me, whatever the situation, I'll try to stay with my leader. I know that each of the team members in this situation, we all know what is the situation, what effect it has in our team and also in my personal life. So if I have a good relationship with my leader, for example, my leader is very listening and my leader understands my situation and my leader is acknowledging my work, definitely I would like to stay with my team, whatever it matters. For I know that the boat is going to sink, but if the captain has some kind of a compassion or an understandability with each of the team members, definitely I will try to stay with my leader.
Thank you.
That's what, like, my personal opinion.
Thank you, Ansu. I agree. I think your rapport with your team and your relationship with your team goes a long way. And that whole piece around trust and rapport, and that really, goes a long way to, manage your team morale. It's really important that your team trusts you and that you have a rapport with your team. And that's very important. Agree. Any other thoughts? Any other inputs?
With you, that's very true. I mean, being honest, being transparent. I think one of the participants had already commented. I mean, we should not kind of shock the members of the team. If they're taken, if you take them for granted and you tell them something, and they're, even if it's something small, and they get a bit excited or worried because you told them at the last minute, and that's it. So I don't think the company has to be in such a bad situation. If they are feeling bad, I think that's the last day. You don't need to go so far. That's what I feel.
That's true. I agree. Any other thoughts, comments, ideas, suggestions?
Yes, this is like very simple thing. When we go down, like definitely everyone will stay one. Like we all know that when we have an issue, and if each member understand each other, definitely they all stay united. And that will definitely help the team to keep up their morale and keep up the good work.
Very true. That's correct. Fatma also shared about trust and credibility. Yes, absolutely. It goes a long way for building team morale. And a lot of these now, it's easy to say the solutions to all of these problems are technology and softwares and all of that stuff. But a lot of it has to do with our leadership skills, and a lot of it has to do with the way we deal with people and us being human and going beyond the call of duty to just connect with people and kind of engage with them and talk to them and hear them. And I agree. I think this has really been quite a valuable input from you as team members.
Once I made a blunder. I was considering myself as a Superman, even though I look like one. Okay, considering as a Superman that, I would have solutions to all the problems, and then it's like one of the famous movie quotes. It becomes like a quicksand. The more you try, the more you sink, and your team is able to see that that you're sinking deeper and deeper, and there goes your leadership.
So true. Thank you so much for sharing. If you guys have any other, thoughts that you'd like to share, I'll give you a few more minutes before we wind up. I know a lot of you might have other things to get to. Some of you are out there late in the evening. Thank you so much for your participation. Any other last comments before we wind up?
I think, Liju, we forgot to say, if they don't share, they don't get the certificate, isn't it?
A few last comments from me. Thank you guys so much for participating in this discussion. This is really a quick discussion. I know a 90-minute or like a 60-minute discussion really doesn't do any justice to a topic like this. Really going in deep about leadership skills and soft skills and addressing some of the challenges here. There's a lot more, and we've not even been able to touch or scratch the surface of a topic like this. But really, what we want to do is bring you guys together. Especially, I see that there's almost 16 people in this virtual room right now. The ability to connect with each other and have support systems and have a network of people that we can rely on, ask questions, to engage and talk to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing. A lot of these topics and discussions that we had today, we haven't had the platform to talk about it or discuss with somebody and chat with, and that goes a long way for us as leaders to sometimes take our stress off and get somebody to listen to us and maybe give us some thoughts on how we could handle some of these situations. So also, I know Malavan and his company Serendib Training has been doing a lot of work with organizations in Qatar, especially around team building. So I'll let him talk about it. And if you need any support around dealing with your teams, some kind of engagement activities, team building, whether that be virtual or in person. I know in person is a lot more challenging now. I just finished a team building program with Malavan end of December for a school around 150 school teachers for a school here in Qatar. And it was a great experience just, for them to have a break from their 1 year of, teaching online and all of the stress of not being able to go back home and having to deal with this, being stuck in this country because of COVID. It does go a long way to be able to organize, certain team engagement events and all of that stuff. And I'm sure Malavan will share more about that. But thank you guys for being awesome participants and sharing your thoughts and really kind of contributing to this. Feel free to remain in touch and, feel free to, add me on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. And if you have anything that you'd like to chat about with regard to work or with regard to teamwork, just feel free to reach out. Yeah. Over to you, Malavan. Thank you so much.
Hey. Thank you very much. I would really love to use this time to read my entire company profile and all the programs that we do, but then I'm going to find everyone just disconnecting quickly. Hey, so I just want to thank everyone for joining. There are a lot of sessions like this. Please, be in touch with us, participate, ask questions, challenge our trainers. You don't, even if if you don't join our sessions, join sessions organized by various other training companies, and I'll ask for help. Ask for help, whether a company or individual. Enjoy learning. Just share your thoughts with us, and we'll also keep you updated on all our future programs. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.